Get ready to level up in Dynasty football.
What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, FF Mike Cash. I am joined by my dogs who have decided to make now crazy time, and a friend of mine, Rhett from Fantasy and Frames. Hey, Rhett, how are you?
Man, how you doing? And first off, let me say this. What an intro you guys have. Like, that's off the rails. That's epic. Dude, I love that. That's so good.
It's all Dungeons and Dragons theme because, you know, if we weren't nerdy enough doing fantasy football, we also do Dungeons and Dragons.
Next level.
We're fired up. Speaking of nerdy, we're about to get into a live scouting. Are you fired up to talk about some Ladd McConkey?
Dude, I am so fired up because if there's one thing I love watching me in the football space is I love me some good wide receiver play. I don't care how big of the divas they are. You know, these guys sometimes they all want PI. They all want to give you the first down. They all want to dance and they make an 8-yard reception. But you know what? Good wide receivers are game changers. They do it so well on a daily basis. And watching a little bit of Ladd, man, I think he has a chance to be one of those guys in the league, despite the fact that he, he's a little bit underhyped compared to some of these other guys in this class.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at a lot of people's top 5 lists. They got, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Like, those are all untouchable guys. Then you get into the Brian Thomas tier. After that, like Troy Franklin, there's a big gap to 6. And I think McConkey might be knocking on the door, but we'll get into some reasons for that in a second. I'm going to play this highlight video. And while I'm going through, I'm going to talk about his measurables. And then I want to hear your scouting process once we get through it.
Sure, man. Everybody
at home, drop comments in the chat if you want to heckle me. So, Ladd McConkey, he is 22 years old. In high school, he was the quarterback, running back. He played defensive back on the other side. He was also the punter. He was also the kick returner. So because he was the entire high school team, he ended up a 3-star recruit, committed to Georgia. He went ahead and redshirted his freshman year. He was a scout team hero, worked his tail off apparently. Nothing but glowing remarks from his coaches. So then as a redshirt freshman, he went ahead and put up 430 yards on Georgia, a loaded team. Weird for a redshirt freshman to be getting all the playing time that he was. Then, as a sophomore, he went ahead and put 896 yards from scrimmage, 9 touchdowns. Like, that was a team with Brock Bowers. That was a team with Darnell Washington. That was a team with A.D. Mitchell. A lot of people's darling, A.D. Mitchell. Word on the street is he went to Texas to run away from Ladd McConkey, and I would too. I get it. And then in 2023, he only played 9 games. He was dealing with some injury stuff, but he went ahead and put up 516 yards and was number 2 on the team in yards per game behind everyone's heartthrob, Brock Bowers.
Mine included.
But, yeah, man, I need more Brock Bowers in my life. But we're not here to talk about Brock. We're here to talk about Ladd, more lacrosse names. Rhett, do you want to talk about what your scouting process is like when you're looking at wide receivers and kind of what we're going to be looking at in Ladd McConkey today?
Man, the first thing I'm looking at whenever I look for a wide receiver is I want to see how they're coming off the line. Like, that's because one of the main things that I love in seeing a receiver is first step is so important. Getting off that line, doing it the right way, selling vertical, which I think Ladd is really good at as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Sharp route running, catching with your hands, high pointing the ball, all the, I guess you would call it the quote unquote stereotypical stuff you look for in a receiver. But on top of that, I also want to see how they're blocking downfield and how willing they are to participate at that level of the game as well. Because if they're doing that, if they're contributing not only whenever they're getting the ball, but they're not getting the ball as well, then, that's a guy that I really think does have some long-term projectability in the league.
Yeah, no, we can see it when you're looking at the tape. Like, he is a grinder. He is constantly getting out to help the team move the ball, whether he has the ball or not. But without further ado, we have some all-22 tape. We have you and me. Sorry, everybody at home. I keep looking over here. This is where my big screen is, and I want to see the big screen with the big boy. He's not that big. He's 6 foot, 183. But Ladd McConkey, first play against Alabama. Let's get into it. First thing we notice here, little play action, roll to the right, out route. I love how he sells the vertical here. So, yeah, you talked about it a second ago. Like, I'm going to go back and replay this. He gets this defender's hips turned almost all the way around, which was delightful. And I went way too far back. That's fun. Man, talk about good content. Just me rewinding.
It's good, man. So no, we're gonna watch this and look. First thing you talk about, yes, sells high, all hard break. The guy once again hips are completely turned. He makes a sharp outcut. It's an easy completion right there.
Yeah, very transferable. Love to see it. Next play, little play action. You see him going deep. Actually, it's an in route. Wow, I need to get these in order. But something that I think McConkey struggled with a lot on film was making contested catches. You know, you weren't seeing him jumping over dudes. You weren't seeing him being really strong through the catch point. It was a lot of, like, once it gets to him, he'll catch it, but he's not going up and jumping over dudes. Did you see a lot of similar stuff?
Yeah, but what I also saw on that particular play we just watched was if you watch the release off the line right there, the guy is playing press coverage on him. And the guy never really gets his hands on him that well. He's able to get there, get to his spot, be able to get to a little bit of separation. And yeah, he doesn't make the catch, but he's able to, against an Alabama cornerback, who, by the way, they're pretty much all elite and they're pretty much all 5-star guys, he's still able to get some separation, get to a spot right there.
Yeah. If I remember right, that corner specifically was their team captain last year and is projected to go in the first round. So do with that what you will.
Not bad.
All right. Goal line, Alabama. You see Ladd over here is lined up in the slot on the left.
Rare for him, by the way.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this before the show. Like, what was his slot snap percentage? Like 10, 15%?
It's like 10 or 15% tops. Like, a lot of people project just because, you know, he's 6'1", 185, maybe a little bit undersized, that he would be quote unquote a slot guy. But if you watch him and you go to sites like PFF and you just watch these breakdowns, like, he's primarily playing as an X receiver the vast majority of the time. He's getting outside, he's selling vertical, he's doing all these things that, frankly, if you don't watch him, you don't really expect him to be doing, but he's doing them consistently and he's doing them well.
Yep. All right. Let's watch him cook another corner. Like, goes there. I love the little head fake to the outside before he breaks to the inside. Yes, and just look, if the name of being a receiver is getting open and catching the ball, then Ladd McConkey's a great receiver.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be more to it. This feels like a money ball type thing. Like, he does the thing, he gets open. I love it. You got any thoughts on the last rep?
No, that's exactly the reason why I chose that rep, because you said, you know, he sells outside, then he cuts back inside. Like, it's the route running that stood out right there. Yeah. Like, he sits there, he sells it vertical, then he sells it outside, then he cuts it back inside a little bit, and he makes his quarterback's job easy once again, and he ends up with a touchdown catch in that situation.
Yeah. Good. Looking through this, McConkey is always open, and it doesn't make sense. Like, you look at him, and he's this, you know, skinny little dude. And he's just always open.
I do have to ask the question: is this and it's worth asking because when you play in a team like this, with all these guys, is it a fact of him being that good where he's getting open, or is it because there's so much attention that has to be placed everywhere else that he finds himself open? That's a question we do validly have to ask.
I would be open to saying that it's a product of the system if he wasn't putting this stuff on tape. So this is part of why, like, you can look at the box scores, you can look at the production, like 900 yards as a redshirt sophomore. Like, that's great. 9 touchdowns, that's great. But when you really dig into the film, you can see specifically McConkey's ability to separate, his burst off of the line, his ability to release, and like his catch percentage was through the roof. If I remember right, I think it's like 83%. Like, if it is in his vicinity, he is catching it. Normally, like 50% is strange. Like, if it is a catchable ball, he is bringing it in, and I'm all on board. So,
yeah, a lot of nuance in this game. I agree.
Long-winded way of saying he performs, and it's, in my opinion, not just part of the system. But
no, I see it too, but I just have to ask the question just so that way, you know, for the sake of being unbiased and trying to fully figure out who this guy is. I mean, yeah, you have to ask the question, like, is it because he's playing with Brock Bowers? Is it because he had a guy like Zamir White in the offense at some point with him? Like, there were stars everywhere. He had one of the quote unquote, you know, people like to say Stetson Bennett was one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. No, he was very good at what he did. So, you know, there's a lot of things going on there, but no, I agree. I think he's really good across the board.
Yep. All right. Let's talk a little bit about his run after the catch here. So he gets in the flat, corner has an angle on him until he doesn't. Then it takes a whole group of people, takes a village. I mean, just look at this little whoop.
Yeah, and it's not just that, but like his ability, that ball is not well thrown. If you could rewind that, people can actually see that throw one more time. Like that is an easy throw that was not made easily in that situation.
Yeah,
and Ladd finds a way to secure it. Watch, go and run it. So it's low, and he still finds a way to, number one, make a move, and what it probably shouldn't have been the play that it was, he turned into something. You know, one quick cut up the field on a poorly thrown ball, and he makes the most of it. It's good stuff.
Yep. Should have been an incompletion, turns it into a 5-6 yard gain. Ladd's blocking.
Here's what I'm here for. Let's go.
We'll watch this. I want to say he is not dominant, but he does everything right.
He's not dominant, but damn it, he's trying. Let's just.
Yep.
And, sometimes with guys like this, I mean, yeah, he's in a college system right now, and he probably put a little bit of meat on his bones at the college level. You know what they're going to do at the NFL level?
Oh, beef him
put even more meat on his bones. Like, he's probably going to be playing by the time he's in his second or third year in the league, maybe even his first year, probably playing at 195 to 200 pounds.
Yep.
And when you have this guy with solid technique and he has a little bit more strength under his belt, this so-so block probably becomes a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, and once again, contributing in an area of the game where he's not necessarily getting the credit for it.
Yep. There's a saying that floats around with coaches all the time, like you can't teach effort, you can't teach hustle. Like Ladd McConkey, you'll see guys running down the field, and he is sprinting his tail off, a la Brandon Ayuk on that highlight video, like trying to find somebody to block and find somebody to hit and find a way to contribute to his team in a meaningful manner. Like, you can't teach that. That's just hustle, and I love it.
Yeah, same here.
Sweet. Couple more clips here for you. This is what we were talking about beforehand. Like he cooks them. He cooks them.
Just
and
easy.
They never look his way because Bowers exists.
Look at him right here. Look, he cuts.
Oh man.
Look at that's such a good, I know it's a simple route for most people, but just the fact that, he's selling vertical and he's got 4 yard separation right here.
Yep. And
they're not even looking his way, but if they look his way right here, it's probably a pretty easy completion. And he's probably getting another first down on here because this is what Ladd McConkey does. He gets open, he gets separation, he catches it, he secures it, does a little bit after the catch. And you know what? He's probably not the most flashy guy you're going to see in this draft, but I would be shocked if he doesn't produce at a pretty high level and at least becomes a flex level guy in fantasy in the league.
He is going to be very valuable. We'll talk about our specific dynasty evaluations for him at the end here. But I think he's an 80 to 90 target guy almost every season once he steps in the league. He is a polished route runner that is able to sell his routes. And if getting open and catching the ball is all a receiver's supposed to do, he's a good receiver. And I'm going to say that over and over again.
No, agreed.
But I think this next play, he runs almost the same route against the same corner, and it works again.
Yeah, just sometimes you know what's coming, and you can't necessarily stop it because sometimes it's done so well. And look, that's just the quarterback doesn't even look anywhere else. And that's something else I want to point out right here, that in this particular play, he is the first read. And if you're a Georgia and you're the first read even occasionally, you're probably doing something right. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And he was the first read for 2 years in the system. He's been the guy on the number one team in the nation. Well, not this year because of Michigan, but
probably still the best team in the nation. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. They blew the doors off of Florida State. But hey, I'm going to go ahead and restart this unless you got something specifically you want to talk about. And we'll just talk about how we view him in the real NFL draft, in our Dynasty rookie drafts, and then we'll go ahead and close it out and have a lovely rest of the night.
No, let's run it.
All right. So back at the highlights, you get to see him do the cool stuff in the background while me and Rhett just run our gums. But I seriously, I view him, it's hard at the back of the first round to not see an NFL team taking a swing. If you are, you go. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you are the Kansas City Chiefs and you just need a dependable receiver, if you are the Baltimore Ravens and you just want a separator to go with your Zay Flowers design touch jitterbug, like there's a couple of teams that make a ton of sense in the first round. And I think he is currently maybe not a lock, but heavily favored to get a top 50 draft pick spent on him. Carolina Panthers need help.
Yes, we were talking. Me and Drew Scott over at Fantasy and Fans was talking about this earlier today. We were like, this Dave Canales hire. We're like, they need wide receiver help. Ladd McConkey just feels like a guy that you can slide in right away and just immediately help that team. Like last year, they did the measurables thing with Mingo. He had a rough first year. It feels like, new regime, new coach. You're trying to get your quarterback off the ground and show why you spent the first pick on him. You need guys that are going to come in and contribute immediately. And if Ladd McConkey isn't one of those guys, I'll be shocked because we just talked about it the whole time. He's willing to block. He gets separation. He's quick off the line, sells vertical, does everything well. Maybe doesn't do anything at an elite level, but does everything at a solid level. And Carolina does not have a first-round pick. So if he's at pick 33, I mean, there's going to be a first-round talent that falls to the second round. So if that happens, maybe they go with an A.D. Mitchell. Maybe there's a Keon Coleman. Maybe there's a Tez Walker. All of those guys outside of A.D. Are more of those physical tool sort of guys that we just talked about that they just went with, and it didn't work out so well. So they need help in that offense, immediate contributors. And I feel like at the 33rd overall pick, if he's there, I think he has to be considered.
Yeah. If a team is looking for somebody that can fit in, be their wide receiver, he's never going to be A.J. Brown commanding the offense. Like he's never going to be Julio Jones in his prime league. That is not who Ladd McConkey is, but I think I view him as like a skinny Chris Godwin. Like he knows how to separate. He knows how to run his routes. He knows how to get the job done. He's never going to be the guy that is trucking dudes and hurdling them into the end zone, but he's going to get open. He's going to get the ball. So I love him.
Yeah, I'm in as well. And, to give a similar comparison, you said Chris Godwin, skinny Chris Godwin, always getting separation. He could also be less strong Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Yeah.
Guys who are, not overly physical at what they do, but dang it, they just know how to get separation and get open. And when they get open and the ball's thrown in their direction, they're going to catch the football. They're going to secure it. They're going to do a little bit after the catch. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown has done this for 3 years now. And year one, people were like, well, this is a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Year two, we're like, okay, he's established. And year three, and heading into year four, he's now seen as one of the top 5-6 receivers in Dynasty in fantasy football. Like, the guy is a stud, and he was a third round pick?
I think he fell even further, if I remember right.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown might end up being the best receiver out of that class. It's a likelihood. And he was not drafted in the first round. So it just goes to tell you that no matter what analytics tell you, at the end of the day, film still matters. Film still plays a role. Like you can give me a 4'3" guy who's 230 pounds at Xavier Leggett, who doesn't really do anything particularly well. And he's probably going to get high draft capital, but will he produce at the next level? I don't know that Xavier Leggett is going to be Ladd McConkey at the next level. I'll just go out and say that right now.
Yeah. I could see a situation where a team is willing to take a swing on Xavier, so they draft him earlier than McConkey. McConkey goes 1 or 2 picks later, and that front office is just kicking themselves for a year. So, all right.
A Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson situation, if you will.
I mean, you said McConkey's Justin Jefferson. I didn't say that.
I didn't say that, but I just found the first comparison that came to mind, but it's all right.
Yeah. My dog decided to start chewing on the cords underneath us. Yes. Hi, Cooper. I love you. So let's talk about what people should do with him in their dynasty rookie drafts. It is the back end of the first. Let's say top 3 receivers are off the board. Top 3 quarterbacks are off the board. Bauer's off the board. McConkey goes top of the second to the Panthers. Where would you view him in your rookie drafts? Where are you comfortable taking him? Are you excited? And do you think he's a difference maker for your team?
Right now we're mocking, and I've had him, second round everywhere I've gone, any mock I've done. If he gets good draft capital where he gets an immediate situation, there is a very real possibility that I'm considering him in the late first, top of the second, easily. Because of opportunity. I mean, we've seen it. He gets open. He gets the separation. He catches the football. I mean, Those are guys you want. Those are guys who end up becoming immediate fantasy contributors. And it's going to get really interesting if he happens to test well at the combine, which, by the way, he is sneakily fast, so it could happen.
I don't think he's sneakily fast. I think off the line, his 10-yard split's going to be exceptional. You can see it in film, like that burst is there.
You know who had the best 10-yard split in the draft last year and didn't have a great 40 time?
Puka?
Nathaniel Tank Dell.
That checks out.
Yeah. I think Tank ended up running like a high 4.4, low 4.5 at 180 pounds, which doesn't project particularly well, but he had the highest 10-yard. He had the best 10-yard split. It was like 1.1 seconds.
Yep.
So
and that showed on Tank's film too. He was cooking dudes.
Yeah. I saw him live at the Independence Bowl last year, and like best player on the field, and it wasn't close.
Yeah. Well, I'm comfortable taking him back into the first, beginning of the second. Do you want to? I mean, we're cross streaming right now, so if you're listening on the Fantasy and Frames channel, head over to the Fantasy Football RPG channel real quick. Drop a like and subscribe, and you can find me on Twitter at FFMikeCash with a K. And Rhett, you want to tell the Fantasy Football, all the Dragon folks where to find you?
Yeah, I can be found on Twitter at rmanuel sports. You can also catch us Wednesday night doing our show with my co-hosts, Chris Battistell and Drew Scott. Fantasy and Frames, Wednesday night, 9 Eastern time. It's the off season right now, but our tagline, we like to call it, it's always the on season over the Fantasy and Frames. We're still over here doing weekly stuff. We did a redraft of the 2023 class last night. Next, we're going to be talking some salary cap dynasty. We're hitting all angles throughout the off season. Going to have some great guests, some great divisional previews later on in the summer. We're going to be talking free agency, Senior Bowl. Like, we're hitting literally as many angles as we can of not just fantasy football, but football in general over the offseason. So we're having a good time over there. And those guys, Chris and Drew, they're incredible. Great team over there as well, whether it's Jorge and Nate doing the IDP stuff. We just had the NFL on Twitter. Cassie joined our team as well. Tyler Heil heads up our Dynasty stuff. Chris Burns is Dynasty Deviant. Does a bunch of great stuff in Dynasty as well. Stacey Perez, like just a lot of really, really talented and smart people that I get to collaborate with and work with on a daily basis, man. It's a blessing.
Yeah. You guys got a great team over there. Tell Preston I say hey. Love him.
Yeah,
but,
good guy. Good dude.
Otherwise, I think that concludes this Ladd McConkey film study.
Yeah. Long story short, what we're trying to tell you is find yourself some Ladd McConkey if you can, because we don't think your time's going to get wasted.
Draft McConkey. You heard it here first.